From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
And good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on your MTN statewide news on this Thursday. I'm Andrea Lutz. This afternoon, there's a multi-agency investigation following the death of 2 people. Police say it all started as a domestic dispute. The incident started in Great Falls. Police say a call came in at around 12:30 for a domestic disturbance in the 3000 block of 6th Street Northeast. Police found 1 person dead and a suspect fleeing with a hostage. 6 hours later, and after a lengthy pursuit, the hostage was safely recovered, and police say the suspects, Flathead County Sheriff, says that the Highway 2 between West Glacier and East Glacier was shut down as law enforcement conducted an investigation related to that incident as it came their way. A woman who lives right next to the crime scene in Great Falls says her husband heard what could have been gunshots, but she had no idea anything was going on until she came outside that morning.
I was just wondering what was going on. It does make you wonder, but I guess it will be what it will be.
Great Falls Police is still investigating this, though, as a homicide. Okay, we are going to take a quick break from news, and we're going to check in with Miller. He's over in the Weather Center. How's it looking outside?
Well, smoky conditions. The haze continues to blow in all across Montana and northern Wyoming. We'll show you that here in just a second. Temperatures 77 in Missoula. We've got 80s and 90s along the High Line. Down in Billings, we're at 84. Over to our east, 80s as well, and we've got 80s down in northern Wyoming. The latest drought monitor came out, and it's not good news. You've either remained unchanged in your area or you've gotten worse. Now, the only spot that's improved a little bit up in the northeast corner near Plentywood, where it's still very, very dry, but you've had a little bit of rain to make a dent, but not a whole big dent. Not a big dent is what I'm trying to say. So over the next several days, in fact, all the way through July 27th, we are leaning drier in our area, and the whole summertime looks like that as well. Now, we do have a slight chance maybe today and tomorrow of some rain, and we'll talk about that along with wildfires coming up.
All right, fingers crossed. Thanks, Miller, so much. It is something that we normally experience in mid-August and September, but that smoke Miller's been talking about, it's already moved into western Montana this summer, and it is here to stay. The question, though, you might have is what to do about it.
Here are the basics to get you started. Number 1, limit your time outside. Head indoors when you can and close windows if it's not too hot. If you have medically managed asthma, have that rescue inhaler on hand. Avoid adding particulate matter to your home, so don't burn candles, cigarettes, or incense, for example. And lastly, if you haven't brought out your air cleaners, upgraded your furnace filter, or built yourself an air cleaner, now is the time.
Okay, severe fire conditions prompted officials in Lincoln County to implement Stage 2 fire restrictions, which are in effect. Then on Saturday, similar Stage 2 restrictions will go into effect for Lake County and the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes. So under Stage 2, this is what you can expect. No campfires in developed camping or picnic areas. Smoking is not allowed. And you can't use an explosive or operate motorized vehicles off designated roads and trails. There are also prohibited actions in the afternoon from 1 p.m. all the way until 1 a.m. Those include operating any internal combustion engines, welding, or operating a torch with an open flame. All right, the U.S. Surgeon General issued the first health advisory of the Biden administration. Dr. Vivek Murthy is calling for a war against COVID misinformation as the Delta variant is on the rise. Natalie Brandt has more details from Washington, D.C.
The U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, calls health misinformation an urgent threat to public health, saying American lives are at risk.
We are pushing back against misinformation, that we are conveying accurately that the vast majority, 99.5% of people who are going to hospitals are not vaccinated.
The Surgeon General cited a study which says even brief exposure to misinformation made people less likely to want a COVID-19 vaccine. This comes as new cases are up double digits in nearly every state, and they're up 50% or more in 32 states.
We anticipated that we would see in areas with high vaccination, low case rates, and now we see in areas of low vaccination, very high case rates.
There's also increasing concern about low vaccination rates among adolescents. About 25% of 12 to 15-year-olds have been fully vaccinated as students prepare to return to the classroom.
In many states, there are different policies for how these teens will get vaccinated. Some haven't, prioritized it. Some don't have the information. Some parents want to have more information about this vaccine for younger kids.
CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky believes if people take action now, we can avoid a spike in cases this fall. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Washington.
Dr. Walensky also says children aren't just behind on COVID vaccines. Also, pediatric vaccinations are also down about 12 million doses for things like measles, mumps, and rubella. All right, a new report shows drug overdose deaths have increased in the United States by 30% between 2019 and 2020. And it is a similar story in Montana, where overdose deaths are up 12%. In Billings, the additional drug use is showing up through the number of people seeking help. In 2019, the Rimrock Foundation saw more than 350 referrals for people who needed help with addiction. That number grew to nearly 630 just last year, and officials say the trend goes hand in hand with the pandemic.
The pandemic actually produced a second epidemic, and that is mental health crisis and an increase of substance use disorders. Our phones are ringing off the hook.
92,000 Americans died from overdose in 2020. 157 of them are Montanans. The pandemic forced the Olympics and officials there to change traditional medal ceremonies. Athletes on the podium will put their medals around their own neck rather than receive them from an Olympic Committee member or leading official from the sport. And there's also going to be no handshakes or hugs allowed during a medal ceremony. The Olympics start July 23rd under a state of emergency in Tokyo due to rising COVID numbers. All right, we have more ahead on today's new news, including star siblings. We're catching up with a pair of Montana brothers as they relive their Olympic experiences. And of course, Miller is checking in on the weather in Montana. But before we go, we're going to show you the Golden Gate Bridge, where that's just fog. It's not smoke. We'll be right back.